With the potential of Myles Garrett being down this week, we examine the adds and additions to the defensive room for the Cleveland Browns. Also, a lot of injuries on the linebacker side. Who steps in, who fills in at linebacker as you're missing JOK and Anthony Walker potentially. We will talk to you about who fills in there, and then we'll get to the offensive side of the football. Hey, Amari Cooper is doing his thing. David Njoku's doing his thing. Does that open up some other opportunities for other receivers and people getting the ball in the football? And we'll talk about it all coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, your host, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday on YouTube. Of course, the Barbershop, Saturday mornings, 92.3 The Fan, pregame, post-game coverage for the Buckeyes, for your Cleveland Brownies, at GBush91, Mr. Garrett Bush. Today's episode of Locked On Browns is brought to you by the fine folks over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Well, we have the official now on Myles Garrett, and I just want to say, before that news dropped, we had the news. Mr. Garrett Bush had the news about 3 hours before the rest of the media knew it. But where we're at, and, a lot of the stuff we get, comes, with confidentiality. And when you're doing these type of things, you don't want to betray the trust people have given you. So you don't. This is number one, this is how you build a brand. Number two, this is how you build trust within people who are willing to talk to you. So even as we recorded yesterday, we knew where it was at. We did our best, obviously, to cover our bases and how we spoke about it. Certainly didn't want to spill any beans. But again, most importantly of everything is Myles Garrett is okay. Myles Garrett's friend is okay in what could have been a crazy, crazy incident. The Browns signed Curtis Weaver back to the practice squad. The way the Browns roster is currently constructed, if Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett cannot go Sunday, the Browns currently have 3 defensive ends on the roster. You got 2 rookies, and you got Quincy Rochell. So, with the 3 of them, number one, keep in mind the stamina of these 3 players. Not sure if any of these guys are ready to go out there and give you 50 to 60 snaps. None of these guys have been playing at that rate to this point. Certainly would be an opportunity for them to get gas there. Curtis Weaver, he knows the playbook. He knows the system. So for Curtis Weaver, if they absolutely have to bring somebody up, he's ready to go. He knows the playbook, so a smooth transition there. Again, you can't expect any one of these guys to go in there and perform like Myles Garrett or Jadeveon Clowney do, but an advantageous situation for the Browns that they were able to find a free agent, who currently unemployed, who knows their system. So, I mean, it's a coup for them. The tricky part here, and look, with Myles, and I would say the injuries probably were mostly sustained probably from wearing a seatbelt, because, when you get into a situation like that, the seatbelt prevents one thing, your body not moving around and, causing any further damage that can possibly happen. So it wouldn't be crazy to say, a guy went out there with a little bit of a strain in his bicep or a little bit of a shoulder sprain and went out there and played. It wouldn't be too absurd to think that. But, the Browns, and we've talked, have always kind of been cautious here under the Barry and Stefanski regime as far as putting players out there and trying not to put them out there and put them in a greater risk for further injury or more significant injury, Baker Mayfield notwithstanding, of course. So it's going to be interesting. And look, could this team beat the Atlanta Falcons without Jadeveon Clowney and without Myles Garrett? I'd say it's certainly possible. I think the offensive matchups are favorable, and we'll get to the offense a little bit more here, in the third segment. But the Browns, have some issues here. Right now, you only have 5 linebackers on the roster, and one of them, Jermaine owusu-koramoah, is injured. We're going to get to a little bit more on the linebacker side of the ball here. look, it's going to behoove the Browns if they can get at least one of Clowney or Garrett on the field for Sunday. Again, we'll see the way the week plays out. And, the other thing with Myles is, those are the injuries that, they diagnosed while he was at the hospital. But, where is he just as far as, normal aches and pains that you're going to have from a car accident in a couple of days. But, everything's positive. If you all, heard the word, like we all did around 4:00 on Monday, Myles Garrett was in a pretty good car accident. Oh, he's only going to miss one game. I think everybody say, whew, do a sigh of relief. So I don't think, now that we know exactly what is up with him as far as the injuries, it doesn't necessarily change anything. The Browns, look, you got a lot of money invested in Myles Garrett. They know how important Myles Garrett is. And if they think they can sit him for 1 week, and within that 1 week, he can get as close back to 100%, and that, is the best thing for them going further, which will be the final, 13 games of the regular season. You got to be cautious with this. But again, where we're at now up until Sunday, a lot of time to go here. So we'll see how it trends here. But, Browns looking like either way, most likely going to be a little bit light on the defensive side of the ball Sunday.
Yeah, so we kind of are privy to the information a little bit, but that's the thing about doing in this business. It's a little difficult. Sometimes you need to know, like, okay, do I say
but
something?
But hey, we're not beat reporters. We don't get paid to be first. We don't have to be first.
Right. I could be like, this is how we doing it. This is what's going on. Yeah. And trust us, like, we're not beat reporters. We're not trying to break news. So, but that's just, what it is, man, out there. And I guess that gives some sort of credence that when you say Locked On Browns, we really locked in. We really locked in to what's going on in the pulse of the Cleveland Browns. But in terms of what's going on the field, you got to look at it like this. You got two rookies. You got guys who are inexperienced. All three of them are pretty inexperienced. And I like the fact that you brought up one thing, conditioning. When you go, I played defensive line. It's a difference between playing, and I've been a reserve and I've been a starter. When you are a starter, you have a level of endurance that you've built up over time because you're playing every day. You're playing every practice. You're getting the majority of the reps in practice, the majority of the reps in the game. But when you're a reserve, you just coming in spot shadowing people. You coming in maybe 1 or 2 series. If they go 3 and out, you on the sideline. If 1 or 2 series, and you can always tell when somebody's a reserve because they're gassed, especially on long drives of 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 plays. You're gassed up there. So when you look at it, those guys are going to need some help. The Browns have to bring some other people in there. And I think it's very imperative that you look at it from a standpoint of, how do I want to call my defense? Because here's the thing, rushing one-on-one is hard as hell too. When they say we're going to rush 4 and we're going to play coverage in the back, that's tough because now ain't no help. You up there is 4 against 5, and you counting on your pass rush ability to get home. And I don't foresee that happening with guys who have not played, who have not been in action form. So I think they're gonna have to mix it up. I think they're gonna have to bring some different blitzes. I think they're gonna have to be very creative in what they do up front. And I expect Myles Garrett, like you said, he ain't playing this game. You just for the simple fact of, hey, you're banged up, you're kind of out of sorts. You're just trying to get your bearings back. You haven't practiced all week. We're good. No, if it was me and the organization, and the Browns have been traditionally, besides the whole Baker Mayfield thing, they've been traditionally on the side of saying, sit down, let's chill out. And I think they even learned from the Baker situation. Hey, let's chill. Maybe he needs a little bit of time. Let's save him from himself. Because Myles Garrett, being who he is, he definitely want to come out here and play. Listen, he probably told him after the car accident, hey, I'm playing on Sunday, and we need to get to 3-1. That's
when you get to the hospital, bring the film.
hey, wrap me up and I'm at practice tomorrow. Nah, big fella, you good. You good. Just sit it out. And this game is going to be very interesting because you're going to be out without so many people, including some of your linebackers. We'll talk about that coming up. But this just goes to show you it's another opportunity for the coaching staff to help the team out, Sometimes it's the quarterback that wins you the game. Sometimes it's defense. Sometimes it's Chubb. Sometimes the passing game. This is one of the games where Coach Stefanski and Coach Woods are going to be very responsible for a win if the Browns do get one.
Yeah, look, you want to be taken seriously. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They're a franchise right now that's kind of stuck in neutral. There's some young talent there, but again, if you don't know who your quarterback of the future is, you certainly have your questions there. And you can even say, oh, well, maybe, we dress Myles. We give him 10 to 15 reps. What happens if somebody gets hurt? And then you're trying to put him on the field more. The other thing is this is a nasty league. You say that, you put Myles out there knowing, one arm, the shoulder's weak, the biceps weak. You want guys all over him, triggering him. And then this is something that, basically Myles is going to play through for the entire season. It's a really, really tough call. Browns certainly have, a lot of time to figure this one out. But in a perfect world, I think the Cleveland Browns, and heck, if I'm the Browns, I'm not even taking them on the plane because I don't want to hear it on the plane ride. I don't want to hear it in the stadium. I don't want to hear it at I can go. And it's a harder line, and you absolutely love it. You appreciate everything about it, but you don't need to, risk Myles Garrett any further. If we find out, on Wednesday or Thursday that Jadeveon Clowney's even participating in practice, which puts him on a trend to play, hey, Myles, you know what? Go do the graveyard in your front yard. Get your front yard decorated for Halloween because you're going to be in Cleveland this weekend. We're all going to be down in Atlanta. That's certainly, if I'm the Browns, the way I'm going to play it here. We got to get to the linebacker position. We got to see, obviously, a couple guys play Thursday night. We're going to see the way that shakes out for them this weekend. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, the latest Locked On Browns. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Look, every now and then you're all tired of your job. You think you're in a bad spot. LinkedIn, just go create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simples like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and possibly hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. Jeff Lloyd, G. Bush in the building. Make sure you follow us at GBush91, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd on Twitter. We definitely talked about the linebacker room. No, excuse me. We're going to get to the linebacker room. We talked about the D-line. Linebackers, we're banged up there too. JOK, who's graded out as probably one of the better linebackers in the league so far, has a growing injury. His condition has not been updated yet. We don't know if he's going to be able to go. We also look at Anthony Walker, who is on done for the season with that quad injury. And so now you have Phillips, Taki, and Fields. And Fields was a guy who came in last week, spot work, did a couple of nice things, but once again, that's different from taking the majority of the snaps. So when you look at this, Jeff, the linebacker position, I believe they're solid with Phillips. I think they're solid with Taki. I think this week they should experiment, and this is an experiment. I'd experiment with Rodney Harrison and linebacker. I've always felt like maybe that's something the Browns should try. Especially on passing downs. If you got passing downs and you got Rodney Harrison as one of your linebackers, that means you got almost a safety being there. So as far as coverage, you should be better in coverage with Ronnie Harrison and playing nickel. So that would essentially mean, and we heard about this a whole lot. Remember we heard with Joe Woods, the 3 safety look? We haven't seen that. We have not seen that come to fruition. Maybe this is the week you might get a chance to see that because you're down at linebacker. You're going to play a little more nickel, play a little more dime, so to speak. So I think this is a good opportunity. You might see a lot more of Ronnie Harrison or Richard LeCounte in this defense. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm totally with you on this because the one thing you're going to think of is, look, we know what Sione Takitaki can do, but it's coming when it gets down to obvious passing situations. Sione Takitaki is not a factor. You think about the fact that Atlanta has a tight end with the athleticism of Kyle Pitts. That is just not a matchup in any way whatsoever for Sione Takitaki. So if you're talking here, and your nickel and your dime, look, the nickel Browns have primarily been playing 3 corners. So you're talking about maybe what you're going to do here, as far as the dime situation. So, you're going to have your 4 defensive linemen. Jacob Phillips most likely going to be on the field. So you're going to have your 6 defensive backs, or you're going to play a second linebacker. So it comes down to Tony Fields, or it comes down to Ronnie Harrison. Ronnie Harrison, there's been times where Ronnie Harrison was good for this team. The thing with Ronnie Harrison is, he is a better player within the box and around the line of scrimmage than he is when he's got to turn his back, track the ball, worry about the guy he's guarding. It's never been a strength of his game. But this is one where you have a guy like Cordarrelle Patterson, who is a pain in the neck out of the backfield. Certainly not a matchup for any linebacker in coverage in that respect. And again, Kyle Pitts, this is a difficult matchup. And the other thing is, how do you look at a guy like Tony Fields and kind of put him in these scenarios? If he's, not been doing enough where you can find him regular playing time, you're going to put him into a really, really difficult matchup. So do you throw Ronnie Harrison out there, who essentially is basically the same size as any will linebacker in the NFL at 6'3", 220? He's got the range. We certainly have had the times where Ronnie Harrison has succeeded for this team. He's a guy that probably could be in the fold here for some playing time this week. Another guy to watch is linebacker number 51, Jordan Kunaszyk. He was the late addition in the summer. Sped up the depth chart as far as the guys who did the team. He plays all the special teams. He was on the field for the last snap of the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is a guy the Browns are starting to like. And it's interesting, Jordan Kunaszyk came over from the Carolina Panthers. Browns yesterday added to the practice squad Jermaine Carter Jr., linebacker, former Carolina Panther, formerly out of University of Maryland, has over 180 career tackles. So there could be a possibility here for Carter if you end up without JOK. Because if JOK doesn't play, the Browns have 4 linebackers. 4. So guess what? That our Ronnie Harrison scenario or Richard LeCounte, somebody's going to have to step up because it's just not enough linebackers. Which means if you're going to use Jordan Kunaszyk, he might have to come off the special teams, where maybe you throw in a player like Jermaine Carter. We'll see the way it works out. These for the Browns, the good thing here is, for JOK, for Jadeveon, for Myles, these aren't long-term injuries. You're not talking rest of the season. Maybe you're talking about manufacturing a week. So we'll see how that all plays out. But, Joe Woods, one thing he's always talked about, as Garrett said, is, loving to play, 3 safeties. The question was always finding the right 3 safeties. This could be a case this week where none of it's going to matter. You're going to have to play.
Yeah, it's time to break out your tricks. It's time. Hey, you can't save nothing no more, Joe. Hey, we need, and that's the great thing about, I don't know why it is, Jeff, but it just makes the season more interesting, right? I'm looking at every single game for the Cleveland Browns. It's something new. Like, before where, at other points in time when you knew you didn't have any talent, this would have been devastating. You'd have been like, oh my gosh, I can't afford to watch these Browns this week. They're going to get bombed on. But with this roster, you got a bunch of guys that don't seem like, they fit. Like Jacoby Brissett's playing better than you thought. The defensive guys are out. Now you're looking at other guys to step up. And that's the part about football that I love. It's the strategy. It's the X's and O's. It's the chess moves that the coaches and teams make. And so it just makes this season more enjoyable. And thus far, it's been one of the more enjoyable seasons, even though they had adversity.
I agree. And look, every game week is a chapter. I mean, every season is a book. I mean, Myles Garrett and everything we went through on Monday, that's a chapter within that book as well. But you've got to be creative. You've got to be willing to adapt. The Browns are not one of these upper echelon teams in the NFL where they can just do the same thing week in, week out and say, go ahead, stop it. And, we'll adapt when you do stop it. The Browns right now are, something that's being made, essentially on the fly. And we've seen a lot of great progression offensively here over the last couple of weeks. You got to think that's going to improve. The defense this week is going to be tough. And I don't want to, you talk about the amount of people that could be out of the lineup. And God forbid the Falcons pick up a couple of first downs, and I'm going to have to go through social media, and people are putting for sale signs in Joe Woods' yard again. You just got to understand. And look, it doesn't matter how you get there. There's only one goal, one objective each and every time you take the field. Walk out of there with a W. It ain't got to be pretty. It ain't got to be ugly. Find the way to win the game, advance to the next week. We're going to talk a little bit here about the offensive side of the ball here. Because, with the growth of Amari Cooper and David Njoku over the past couple of weeks, it's kind of left some other guys, as far as, statistical bystanders. We'll see if that can change here a little bit. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every day, whether it's on your favorite podcast app or, of course, available now on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, have the notifications on. This way the content will drop as soon as you are ready to digest it. It'll be there waiting for you. And Garrett's going to tell you about a little something y'all maybe should look out for come Sunday. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns.
We got some cool stuff coming up on Sunday. The Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 2-minute warning. We will obviously have that ready as soon as the game concludes in Atlanta with the Browns and the Falcons. But pregame, you already know what it is. I'll be on pregame. You can find me on 92.3 The Fan. I'll be on the pregame show 9 to 1. And then as soon as I get done with that, we are going to have the Ultimate Cleveland Show virtual watch party. Now, that's going to be a really cool thing. I just retweeted it out. I'll tweet at Locked On Browns, so you'll have it. You can get free tickets to this thing. And basically, this is a virtual watch party. It'll be me, Tyvis Powell, former Ohio State Buckeye, Leroy Horde, DeQuell Jackson will be there. Also, Falcons guys, man. We got John Abraham. We got Andre Rison that'll be also joining that group. So we got a lot of different pros from Cleveland and Atlanta that are going to be in this watch party, and we can have you join with us. It's going to be fun. It's on the app called Hangout, and I'm going to go ahead and tweet that out. Make sure you get your free tickets. Just click the link in the description. You'll be able to sign up and get those free tickets. You'll be able to kick back, hang out with us the first half of the game, hear the instant analysis, and do it face-to-face in a virtual setting.
So, offensive side of the ball here, Garrett, and it's great to see what Amari Cooper has done. It's great to see what David Njoku has done here. But the issue has been you've got one reception from Donovan Peoples-Jones over the last 2 games. You've got one reception from Anthony Schwartz over the last 2 games. You've got 2 short receptions for David Bell over the last 2 games. Harrison Bryant, some contributions, not enough. You need to see now, and with the success of Cooper and Njoku, number one, Jacoby Brissett's life should probably get a little bit easier because, the focus of this is certainly going to be on those 2 ridiculous talents he's got in Njoku and Cooper. But, you cannot sustain a passing game the way the Browns had over the last 2 weeks by just, basically focusing on 2 guys. Defenses are going to be better that they play. Defenses are going to commit to taking some players away and some things that they can do away. We need to see, hopefully here, some involvement of the young receivers of Harrison Bryant and Jacoby Brissett, basically trying to, feed the whole family here.
Yeah. One of the things that, happens is generally speaking, when you got a backup quarterback or any quarterback in general, they develop some sort of rapport with a couple of guys who they like to get the ball to. Most times, the term security blanket became popular in sports because tight ends are looked at as the dump off valve. Anything happens, I could just hit my tight end underneath, throw a quick little pass. So David Njoku by default is a guy who's going to get a lot of touches and targets if you have a quarterback that's comfortable with him. Number 1 receiver, Amari Cooper. He's a guy who has been catching the football, number one receiver, and know he's going to get the football. So what you want to do is you want to have a situation where you might not have Donovan Peoples-Jones every game as a secondary outlet. You might not have Anthony Schwartz or David Bell as a second option every single week. What you will have, though, is you would like to see one of those along with Cooper and along with Njoku getting some of those touches, because that means you're keeping the defense honest. That means they can't double anybody, and that means they can't just specifically key on one set of people. So even if they don't have 4 receivers over 100 yards, you would just like to see one of the others. You're always depending on the other to step up and to catch a few footballs so that you can be a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, and that's the key here. And the other thing is with young guys, man, gotta keep them engaged. It's okay for a veteran like Amari Cooper to have a week where it just wasn't working his way and you went the other route. But look, Donovan Peoples-Jones, confidence is still a thing. Anthony Schwartz, certainly. David Bell, like all these guys still cutting their teeth in the NFL. It's key for them to have some role in this, because the thing is if you're not doing the part that truly is the meat of the position, which is making plays as far as receiving the ball, you worry about where their heads are at as far as doing the intangibles of the position, blocking, making sure they're running their routes, even though essentially they might be a decoy. You've got to stay on with that. But I think there's going to be an opportunity here this week for things to open up a little bit for the other guys here, because, with Amari Cooper with 18 receptions the last 2 games, David Njoku 9 receptions last week, obviously a focal point, between the hash marks and, the things he's been able to do. And with that, once you start focusing, on Njoku between the hash marks, it certainly is, the opportunity to get running backs outside the hash marks. But you want to get to a more balanced approach here with this, because, it's great to have all the success with Amari Cooper, but eventually defense coordinators are going to run 2, they're going to run 3, do everything they can to take it away. And when you have to go to these other guys, you can't just say, oh, well, we're going to throw David Bell 6 balls this week, even though we've thrown him, 2 in a month, essentially.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you want to eliminate. You want to get everybody comfortable, because, like I know, Jeff, if we want to get to where we want to go, we're going to need these young guys to step up. We're going to need the people to be careful, or we need people to be contributors, especially in crunch time. So once you get to the end of the season where you're playing Miami at Miami, playing Buffalo at Buffalo, you're going to need these guys to come up with a big-time third down catch, come up with maybe a 50-50 ball in the end zone, maybe be able to break a tackle and go to the house. You need those guys to be able to do that for you. But to do that, you need to have them be a part of the system. You need to have them be comfortable and to know that you have confidence in them making plays.
It's what it's about. I mean, look, you want balance and you want everybody involved, because, as far as, this escalating and wanting for the overall improvement of this offense, and where nobody's giving it a hard time for what it's done to this point, I think we're all kind of blown away by how well this offense has played the last couple of weeks. But now it's, you pick it up a notch, and picking it up a notch is getting some other guys involved. So certainly some things to watch for here. We'll monitor for the next couple of days the way it works out for the defensive ends. We'll monitor the way it's working out for the linebacker room here next couple of days. But I'm also going to tell you, I think, this Browns offense should be able to do enough to overcome, whatever shortcomings or guys who are unavailable to them on the defensive side of the ball on Sunday. Just a couple things here. All the folks, I know a lot of Browns fans down in Florida. Obviously, everybody be safe. We're all thinking about you. It just, look, when you're against the weather and it's an opponent that you can't do anything about, just crazy stuff. I think I just saw something 12 to 18 feet, water surge. I mean, you're talking about the amount of water can take out an entire stinking neighborhood. So, God bless you all. We're all thinking of you. You all stay safe. Going further here this week, obviously we're going to get to a crossover episode with Aaron Freeman. I'm not sure how any of this could possibly affect the game Sunday, but keep in mind, because I know the Mets are in Atlanta this week for a big series between those two teams. Granted, where the Falcons play, there's a dome. But we'll see. I mean, there could be an issue, a slight issue. Well, so it is something to monitor as far as, the weather that is coming towards Florida and then eventually headed towards Georgia as well. So, all that just stuff to, keep your eyes on and, keep in mind. And, at the end of the day, look, fans are fans and we can all bust each other's chops, but, safety is safety and you just want the best for everybody involved. He is Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Fridays on YouTube. The Barbershop 92.3 The Fan. Saturday mornings, Garrett's always out there chopping it up. Always a great time talking with Garrett. We've got great guests on there. Very, very excited fan bases that are geared up early on a Saturday morning to get some takes out there with Garrett. So make sure you check that out. Your pregame, postgame show for Ohio State, the Cleveland Browns, the 2-minute show. We'll fire it up, Sunday afternoon. Make sure if you're looking for something a little different. I mean, you telling me you got Andre Rison in there, you got John Abraham in there, a bunch of other great personalities. Something to check out, for Sunday. If you're always looking for something different, with how you view your football or something different, go ahead and check that out because, I'm not a big Tiki Bar guy, so I'm not really too excited about Tiki Barber on the call Sunday myself. So I will definitely be tuning into that on Sunday. So, and make sure you're following at GBush91, myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, the show at Locked On Browns, follow back account, DMs are open. Make sure you're checking all that out. We just continue to try to give you guys the best content we can each and every day. The show has been doing very well. I know we're getting a lot of new listeners here and we appreciate that. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button, whether it's in podcast or on YouTube. On YouTube, make sure you have the notifications on. So whenever content drops, you've got it to digest. We're just going to continue to try and crush it for you guys every day, like we do. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.